I'm about to show you 15 of the very best free, action-packed offline mobile games you gotta try this year. I've also ranked them all from most popular to most unknown, so let me know how many of these games you knew already, and let's then kick things off with the most popular of these games, Combat Master Mobile. This is a relatively new first-person shooter that has online multiplayer, but that can also be played as a single-player offline experience, where you play with and against bots instead. You can even progress and unlock new weapons and attachments when playing offline, which I think is a nice little detail. The biggest reason I'm including Combat Master though is just how incredibly smooth it is. There are barely any loading screens and the combat is very fast paced, much like in Call of Duty Mobile. And maybe best of all, there's no pay to win either, as the monetization is focused on cosmetic weapon skins. So if you're looking for an offline FPS, this is my best recommendation right now. The next game is actually sort of a 2-for-1 recommendation, because both Soul Knight and its successor Otherworld Legends are great offline roguelike RPGs. Soul Knight itself has more than 50 million downloads, and for good reason I might add, and Otherworld Legends adds a nice melee-based twist to the combat system that I personally really enjoyed. They both also have a 100% positive user score on my games discovery platform MinReview, so if you haven't played them yet, I can almost guarantee that you'll have a great time with them. Now, the real-time strategy game genre almost doesn't exist on mobile, but there are a few great exceptions, and one of those is RTS Siege Up, which has over 100,000 ratings on the Google Play Store. Inspired by games like Warcraft and Age of Empires, you establish a base, gather resources, construct military buildings, train troops to create an army, and then fight against the enemy forces, all in the hopes to win the campaign and restore peace in our kingdom. The really cool thing about this game though is that it can be played both in landscape and portrait mode. It also has a level editor, so you can create and share your own maps, and a multiplayer mode is even in development. It's a free game with advertisements that you can disable via a $2 in-app purchase, so if you're looking for a true classic RTS on mobile and you've already played Polytopia, you don't want to miss this one. Now, if you like the Trackmania games, one of the best mobile alternatives is Car Stunts 2, which is an arcade racing game with controller support, a set of free levels, and access to a level editor and user-created levels through a single $4 in-app purchase. It's a fast-paced and super fun game with lots of insane levels full of loops and massive jumps, and that's where the jet part comes in, as we often have to use the jet engine, yes, a literal jet engine, found at the back of our car to fly through the air until we hit the track again. And as today's first bonus recommendation, if you like this type of experience, definitely also check out Hot Lap League, which is my personal favorite offline racing game. And yes, this one also is heavily inspired by Trackmania. Moving along to the games with less than 5 million downloads, we've got one of the best precision platformers on mobile called Super Mombo Quest. This game is honestly just a bit of a masterpiece, and instead of individual levels, it's played in a large Metroidvania-like world full of crystals to collect, enemies to defeat, and dangers to avoid. What really makes it unique though is that we've got 2 objectives in each area we enter: collect all the crystals and achieve a Mombo combo by killing every single enemy before a timer reaches 0. And that last objective really makes a big difference, as we're pushed to complete each area as fast as possible, creating an awesome gameplay experience. The game isn't super hardcore though, because when we die, we just respawn at a village where we can spend our crystals on power-ups and permanent upgrades before then making our way back into the large persistent universe. The touch controls are great, it has Bluetooth controller support, and for a $5 in-app purchase, the game becomes offline playable and all the ads are removed. It has a 100% positive user score on MinReview, and I think you will love this one. Another offline game I've enjoyed recently is the World War II themed arcade bullet hell shooter AirAttack 2, which features 22 campaign levels, daily events, and even survival missions. As we progress, we get to upgrade 5 unique airplanes, but one of the best parts of the game is that every level is fully destructible, including all buildings. In fact, the boss fights often include ground targets or buildings that we have to use bombs to destroy. The game can be played in landscape and portrait mode, and like many of these games, it also has Bluetooth controller support. It's a free-to-play game on Android with ads and a $2 in-app purchase to remove them, whereas on iOS it's a $1 premium game, but either way, it's an easy recommendation and one of the best games in this genre on mobile. Now, it's safe to say that last year was the year of the reverse bullet hell games, and I even made a full video on these games, and one of the absolute best in the genre is undoubtedly Vampire Survivors. I'm sure you know about these games already, but what I like about Vampire Survivors is that the abilities are super fun, we can unlock permanent power-ups, and there are lots of challenging achievements. It also has Bluetooth controller support, can be played in both landscape and portrait mode, and best of all, it's free to play without any paywalls. And as not one but 4 quick bonus recommendations, if you love this genre, I think you'll really enjoy Magic Survival 20 Minutes Till Dawn, Pickle Pete, and Brotato as well. Hey, if you've enjoyed the video so far, I hope you'll leave a like to give it a boost, and let's then continue with a smooth, polished, silly, fast-paced action platformer called Cookies Must Die. And what I really like about this game is that we swipe and release to move our character, which lets us calculate a path that will send us flying through the air to avoid the enemy bullets and just destroy the opponents. It's just a really fun gameplay experience, and between these levels, we upgrade our character and buy new weapons so that we can defeat the next chapter of levels and eventually defeat the boss at the end. It's a free game with in-app purchases for more in-game gold and some incentivized ads, but never anything that's too annoying, so I would say definitely check it out. But hey, if you crave something with deeper RPG systems instead, I think you'll love Darkrise. It's essentially a hack-and-slash pixel RPG where we can play as an archer, mage, or warrior to stab, shoot, and burn our way through hordes of enemies to complete epic quests. The game has most of what you'd expect from a great RPG game, including a large talent tree and lots of gear, and the biggest downsides are that the gameplay eventually gets a bit repetitive and our equipment does not change how our character looks. But it still has a 100% positive user score on Mino Review, and with just a few incentivized ads and a $4 in-app purchase to remove them, it almost feels like a premium game. Bad to Bad Apocalypse is another great offline game that stands out because of just how unique its gameplay is. So at its core, it's a 2D action shooter where we explore a large semi-open world to collect resources, craft gear, save our colleagues, expand our camp, and defeat all the bad guys. And I gotta say, in comparison to the first Bad to Bad games, this one feels a lot larger and it has much more variety to its gameplay. So you might want to check it out if you enjoy this unique mix of action, survival, and tactical strategy gameplay. The game monetizes via incentivized ads and then in-app purchases for weapons and additional resources. It is definitely a bit of a grindy game, so the monetization here isn't exactly perfect, but it's still a fun offline game that I'm sure many of you will enjoy if you can live with the monetization system. We're moving on to the games with less than 500,000 downloads now. This is the territory of the hidden gems, and the most popular of those is the wacky but impressive RPG Epic Battle Fantasy V. This is just a great game full of silly characters, a fun monster catching system, incredibly challenging battles, and charming soundtracks. I'm not gonna spoil the story for you guys, but you really do owe it to yourself to take this one for a spin if you enjoy RPGs and you haven't tried it yet. Let me just say that there's a good reason this game has a 100% positive user score on Mino Review. Yes, it's a silly game, but the gameplay is some of the best in this genre on mobile, and it monetizes via entirely optional in-app purchases to remove the incentivized ads and greatly expand the game. A Way to Smash sits at roughly 100,000 downloads, but it's a great turn-based action puzzle game where we have to figure out the right order to attack the enemies in. So we simply tap an enemy to smash it, but after every action, all the other enemies move closer, which means just a single mistake can get you trapped and killed in this game. Thankfully though, you do eventually unlock abilities and special weapons that can get you out of those situations if you use them correctly. The overall art style and animations of the game just look fantastic, and it monetizes by selling more of the currency that we also earn from playing the game, so it's easy to enjoy its 150 levels as a free player. Next up, I've actually got not one, but two hardcore precision platformers, both of which, by the way, have level editors, so you've basically got unlimited levels to play. The first one is Safari Forever, which is a one-button platformer similar to Super Mario Run. The levels are tiny and they're quick to complete since they each consist of just a single room, but they're often full of interesting traps that make them a lot harder than they might seem. You've got an almost endless supply of user-created levels, and I really think this is one of those games that everyone should just have installed for whenever you're bored for a few minutes, and especially since it doesn't have any annoying ads in it. The next of these two platformers is Astrogon, which is a unique neon-style vertical arcade game with only 10,000 downloads. I don't get it, this game should be more popular. So the objective in the game is to collect 3 stars and finish each level as quickly as possible by tapping the left and right sides of the screen to jump from platform to platform. I really enjoyed this very hardcore gameplay loop, and apart from simply having lots of user-created levels to play, we can also leave a comment on each level and even attempt to beat its world record. It monetizes by occasionally showing us an ad here and there, but you can remove those via a $3 in-app purchase, and I truly think it's one of the best competitive arcade platformers on mobile. And now for the most unknown of these games, and one that really surprised me because because when I first saw Rift Rapture, I really had no idea that this was gonna basically be a free alternative to Gunfire Reborn. So that means it's essentially a first-person roguelike shooter where we work our way through infinite levels to earn a currency that we can later use to level up our character, improve our stats, enhance our weapons, or buy entirely new weapons. Now, before you get too excited, this game does not have multiplayer, and it is definitely not as polished as Gunfire Reborn. Far from it, in fact, but it does decently well as a free offline playable alternative to that game, and it only costs $2 to remove the ads from the game, so I do think it's worth checking out if you like the idea of a roguelike shooter game. And hey, if you're looking for a great game to play with your friends on mobile, check out this video about the very best co-op mobile games, and I'll see you guys there.